have to acknowledge, though, that there are challenges as much as we are passionate about what we want to do. It doesn't mean that we will not face challenges, In fact, in every aspect of our life, whether you're not a mom, whether you're single, whether you're a student, whatever phase you are in right now, whatever season you are in, there will always be challenges. So how do you then face these challenges? How do you find the balance? Does it even exist? Do we even have such a thing as balance as mothers, in this roller coaster that is called motherhood? Hi, darlings. Welcome. It's been such a long time since we had a chat about topics like this, where we discuss life as well as business and, doing things that we're passionate about as moms. If you're hearing this voice for the first time and you didn't know that I also have a channel, please make sure that you head over to my channel by clicking the link in the description under this podcast and subscribe, sis, so that we can have chit chats every week. But if you are seeing this face but you didn't know that I have a podcast, also head over to my podcast channel by clicking the link in my description below. So today, I just wanted to have a chat with you guys about challenges of balancing motherhood, career, and studies, because the fact that you are a mom, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to stop. Of course, I understand and I know from experience that having to do all these things and trying to do all these things is not always easy. Trust me, I know this because I found myself also in my previous months, not long ago, having to reassess my life and think if it's really worth it to pursue certain things that I feel so passionate about. But, I understand my why and I understand why I started everything. And so quitting is never an option. So we have to acknowledge, though, that there are challenges as much as we are passionate about what we want to do. It doesn't mean that we will not face challenges, In fact, in every aspect of our life, whether you're not a mom, whether you're single, whether you're a student, whatever phase you are in right now, whatever season you are in, there will always be challenges. So how do you then face these challenges? How do you find the balance? Does it even exist? Do we even have such a thing as balance as mothers, in this roller coaster that is called motherhood? I remember early in my life when I was just a student and everything was so good. I had a perfect routine, I knew what I was going to do right when I woke up and what I was going to do at the end of my day. Everything was going according to my plan. I could have an ideal morning routine. Typically, my morning would consist of a quiet time with God, having some me time to really refresh and, look into things from a perspective of God and God's word. And then I would easily go into having my breakfast time, no noise around me, no messy house to deal with, just a simple student life. From there, I knew that I have to head over to my studies and have a perfect study time and then have a perfect evening as I have planned. But then life happened. Now, when I wake up, sometimes I don't even know where to start. I'm a person who values routine so much, and I feel that motherhood is this roller coaster that got me to a place where I had to accept that things are not going to be that perfect. However, the most important thing is to look into what goals did I have and how can I fit that into how my schedule is already, and how can I achieve the things that I, as a mom, I still feel that I want to see myself achieving. So in this video, I want us to look into several tips that I have for you. I'm also going to be very vulnerable. I'm going to be sharing the challenges that I'm still facing too, because it's not just you who's watching, who has to figure out their life and how they can find this balance if it exists. But I also find myself having to keep on pressing the restart button. I've grown to learn and to tell myself as well, to remind myself that being a mom doesn't mean that you have to let go of yourself and live an unfulfilled life. Your well-being also matters. Feeling fulfilled as a mom, it also spills over to the well-being of your children, to the well-being of your household. If mom is not okay, things in the house also change. People in the house also get impacted, get affected. But if you as a mom, your well-being also is something that you prioritize, and something that you make sure that you do not neglect, you are also indirectly impacting your own family, the people that come first in your life. Okay, so how do we deal with managing work responsibilities? Because that's the first thing I want to talk about, managing work responsibilities while ensuring that you have quality time with your children. What strategies can we then apply in order to manage this important aspects of our life? And I think the first thing as a mom, which is something that is very important to me as well, is time. Okay, it isn't going to work if you as a mom, you do not have specific times that this are supposed to be my work time, this is supposed to be my work hours, and this is supposed to be my family activities. Most of us, we tend to find it hard to really make up that time where we are able to have time with our family as a priority. Why? Because obviously work is stressful. There's a lot of to-do list. There's a lot of tasks that are due. But it's very important that as a mom, you also bring yourself to that place where you sit down and intentionally tell yourself, okay, these are my working hours. This is where I focus on my work, especially if you're working out of the house. I know it can be challenging when you're working within the house, because then the temptation is to keep going and going and going until it's late and everyone has to sleep. Okay, so it's very important that you understand which hours are supposed to be dedicated to your work. And also, don't fuss a lot about having a perfect work day where everything is done. I mean, one thing that my colleagues always say is that work doesn't finish, okay? It's only you who finishes. So what that means is that your work will never finish, but if you don't take care of yourself, also having that family time as well, and time for family activities, it's also allowing you to prioritize your mental health in that way, because you are at least taking time to restart and be away from that stressful workload that you have to focus on. So it's important that you have specific work times. There's no other way I can emphasize this better except as it is. Have specific times for your work and specific times for your family, and family activities, especially with your children. And then for me, one other thing that adds a challenge to my goals as to how I want to manage my work and my quality time with my children is the fact that I'm also homeschooling. And I am forced to homeschool because I am in and out of the country. Right now I'm here, I'm in South Africa, and in 2 months' time I'll have to go back and be abroad, and work will now be more fully there. I'll have to focus more on work than I'm actually doing now, because now I'm enjoying my maternity leave. So now with the homeschooling in there as a schedule as well, the challenge has now been compiled for me, because then I have to make time for homework. I have to make time to attend classes with him, or to make sure that there's somebody there attending classes with him, and so on. And even when you have a child, though, who goes to school out of the house, I know it can be a challenge to get yourself ready in the morning and then get your child also in the morning to be ready to go to school. So for me, what works for me as a mom who is also homeschooling and also with a newborn is having to check the work that we have to do the day before. So in that way, I'm able to go through his schedule, and I'm able to go through what is it that I know I have to do as well on the following day, and I can see what needs to be prioritized, so that I'm not trying to figure out everything in the morning. And I know if you have a child who's going to school, my son went to school in a physical school before, and we had to make sure that the day before everything is sorted. We have the uniform is ready, and whatever that needs to be done is ready. And also, as far as my work was concerned, at the time when I was a work from home mom, I knew that, okay, in the morning after I'm done with this and having to drop off the child at school, I'm gonna have to come back and prioritize this task first before I can start doing this. So preparing the day before is always the best, because then it sets you up for success on the following day, where you approach the following day with a strategy and knowing where to start. Of course, things won't go exactly perfectly at times. Something may happen that is outside of what you've planned for, but because you've already planned your day and because you already know what are the most important things, it won't throw you off the balance that much. And one other thing is taking advantage of any flexible working arrangement at work. For us in my now school where I'm working at, we get to have those moments where we are allowed to knock off early, and in that moment, that's the time that I get to at least spend with my son, especially given that I had not, planned anything in advance for that time. Some of the days they just let us know in the morning that today is gonna be a day for remote work, or it's gonna be a day for something that's happening, so we can leave 2 hours early, 3 hours early. So that is the time that you can take advantage of whenever you get time like that. Holidays when they come in, because there is something about spending quality time with your children. It also builds up their confidence, and you're also able to have conversations with them where you can see if there's certain things that you need to teach them, or certain misconceptions that they have picked up, and so on, and using technology wisely. I mean, we live in a technology era. I know there's been a lot of negativity around exposing your children to technology. But for me, as a working mom, and as a mom who has had to work from home at some point and have to be, raising my child at the same time, I found technology to be very helpful, but obviously we have to use it wisely, But I had fun education activities that I had, I had planned out for my son, and the certain apps that I had downloaded for him, and he had even till today he has a schedule on when he can do certain things and when he can open a certain app or a certain device and so on. And that actually also gives you a time as a mom to be able to handle a work task while your child is focusing on a certain activity where it's still fun, but at the same time it's educating the child. And I think actually talking about technology and apps and so on, I think I should make another video where I can recommend certain virtual apps and activities that you can do. And one of the things that my son is actually, one of the things that are working for my son as a child who's homeschooling and actually online schooling, it's also having virtual play dates. So like the previous week, I had to study for my own MBA. And at the same time, I wanted to read up while my newborn was sleeping. And at the same time, because I had arranged a virtual play date for him, he was able to be with a friend on the living area by himself, and I could easily just come in and out just to keep checking if everything is going well. And that is very helpful for me as a mom, to be able to know that my child can do something on his own while I get something done, And one most important thing, I keep on saying everything is important, but I think that is why it's all in this video, because they are all important. But this one, if you have to forget everything, this one it's something that you shouldn't forget, because it's easy for us as mothers to forget. And it's to be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You can't get everything right every day. Life is not perfect, and so your schedule will also not be perfect. Things will change, things will come up, and so on. You just have to keep pressing the restart button and prioritize again and re-strategize and keep going, mom. You've got this. Because for me, it's something that also happens to me all the time. And whenever something didn't go according to my plan, I don't fall apart anymore. I used to when I was still starting this journey. But now I just tell myself, it's okay, it has happened. If maybe I couldn't send something in time because something came up, with my children, I just communicate and I think about how I can then get that done and keep going. So I have actually met several mothers mothers in my cycle that have become friends, people that I call my friends, are mothers that are also studying. Having to see how other people, how other mothers in my cycles are still pushing their ambition to grow in their career by growing and through studying further, it also keeps me motivated, to keep going. And I go at my own pace. I've had people, study before at the same time with me, graduate before me, and so on, or whatever that happens. But it's my journey, and I always remind myself that, you know what, it's my journey, and I will take it at my pace. We all don't have the same lifestyles. But at the same time, as I said, because you're a mom, it doesn't mean that you should stop dreaming. You should let go of, what you have envisioned for your life as well as your career, because that whatever growth that comes your way as a mom, it will impact your children also in a positive way. It's just about always reminding yourself there has to be that intentionality when it comes to how you handle all these things all together. So when it comes to my studies, honestly, it's one thing that helps me to factor them in this busy schedule that I have already is being realistic about how much time I need and how much time I can give to my studies. And where I need help, I get help. And it's very important. When we're undergrads still studying our first degrees, we had the university do everything for us. We had tutors, we had, all the help we could get, and we also had a lot of our friends that were studying the same things we were doing. So it was easy to get help. And then now when you're a mom, you can be in this secluded area or cocoon of your life where there is no one really to connect with and no one to get help from and so on. And so you'll find that you have to go all out there and get yourself this help as much as you can, so that you do not find yourself just struggling by yourself in this island that you live in called motherhood. So for me, what works for me is also knowing how much time I can give. And if I know that, okay, here I will not have enough time, it also helps me think about what kind of help then can I bring in terms of like hiring a tutor or somebody who can help me in terms of my readings and my assignment writings and so on. And creating a study schedule. It's not something that just have to stop in our undergrad studies, where something like having a schedule, having a timetable is not something that has to stop. Even when you continue studying, as you study part-time, as a full-time working mom, you still have to have that schedule, because it has to be done so that you can complete your studies and also finish and focus on reaping your fruits. So create a study schedule, and it has to be realistic. It has to fit in with what responsibilities you already have, whatever responsibility you already have. And also using productivity tools. There are tools that you can use as a person. For me, I use several tools. I think I will share them in a specific video, tools that I use for me to be able to complete my assignments, complete my weekly task, and summarize my readings and so on, so that I do not end up spending the entire week trying to get one thing done. Okay, so I will share, but you can explore different productivity tools out there and plan properly. And one of the things that we should never forget is prioritizing self-care and mental health. We live in a season where mental health is very important, and it's the most it's the most highlighted thing. And I'm happy that in this era that we are in, mental health is no longer overlooked and looked at as, in my language, we say we are defa, like you're just being soft. People used to just be taken as, if you're falling apart, it means you're being soft, or you're a failure and so on. But we live in a time where we are being made aware of how important our mental health is. And it's important that as we try to find balance in our life, we do not forget about ourselves. When you take care of your mental health, you are taking care of the very most important person to your family, to your kids, and that's you. So find time for your physical health, and one of the things that work for me is relaxing. For me, the most important part of my self-care is having to relax. As simple as that. Relaxing and ensuring that I get enough sleep. When I'm stressed, I go to sleep. And now it's a very huge challenge because I have a newborn. I can't easily just go and sleep anyhow I used to. Before I used to easily just go sleep. When I'm stressed, I go sleep. When I wake up, I have all the solutions that I can think of. But I still try to make sure that, I still get some time to relax. It's okay to relax. Mommies also need to relax. We tend to feel like we should have everything in control. And sometimes even our families, they can be somehow entitled to us being there for them all the time. But it's very important that we also make them aware of how important time to relax is by prioritizing it. And they learn that way. When you prioritize, when you take yourself serious, everyone will take you serious too. And reading and prioritizing quiet time, for me, that's what works for me. If I spend time in the Word of God, that helps me to not just look into me, where I am reminded every time that I'm insufficient, that I am not enough. But when I look at the Word of God, I'm able to see what I can do through Him, because, with God, I know that all things are possible, and that with Him, I am fully equipped to handle whatever task or whatever season that I face in life. So for me, quiet time is very important. It gives me time to restart. And sometimes I just spend my quiet time, just sitting and meditating on the Word of God. It's like simple like that. It doesn't have to be too complicated. There are most days where I just sit down with my Bible and I'm having perfect journaling moment with all the colors I can have, the highlighters, and taking down notes and so on. But sometimes just sitting and waiting on the Lord is enough, and having that gospel play in the background, For you, our quiet time, it cannot be the same, For someone else, if you are not a believer, what does quiet time look like for you? And if you're a believer, what does quiet time look like for you? It won't be the same every day, but have that as part of the things that you prioritize in your daily life, and make time for, your beauty treatment. For me, I noticed that initially I was neglecting myself so much, especially when I became a mom for the first time. I was neglecting myself so much. Whenever I had money, I would just think of, things that I should do firstly for my family. And most times I was not even part of the budget, not because I had to rely only on someone to make the budget for me. But even when I was making my budget, sitting down, writing the budget as to what's going to happen with the finances in the house and what's going where, I was not even prioritizing myself there to say, I'm going to go and do my hair, I'm going to go and do this and that, And that showed up also with the energy I was giving at home, and my joy, my happiness, and, the energy, just how I carried myself. It just manifested in how I carried myself. And I have learned, because, one thing I love about being in a work environment as well is that you get to meet fellow mothers who are crushing it in the career environment and also at home, in as much as they face challenges. And that reminds you that it's possible for you to have that as well. It reminds you that it's possible for you to have that as a mom. So it's very important that you prioritize yourself, make yourself also, part of the important list. And one other thing, again, is being honest about the help I need. Because most times I grew up believing that, I burden people a lot, whenever because at home, being the firstborn, you have to be the one who handles everything, handles everyone. And sometimes people forget that you are also not that perfect, and you also experience whatever that they go through. So I was this person who was perceived as strong in my home. And so asking for help, as much as it's easy to someone, it wasn't something that comes as easy. Till today, I kind of still hold back there and there whenever I need to ask for help. But it's something that I challenge myself in, and I push myself out of my comfort zone to admit that I really need help, okay? And it's very important to recognize that one needs help. When you need help, recognize that you need the help. and identify potential helpers within your cycle. Okay. So before we go and talk, I'm going to talk about professional help, but it's very important to identify people that can help you within your circle. Our spouses are the first ones, of course, but we don't have a perfect life, as people, as much as moms, we have our own things that we feel we have to prioritize. The same goes with our spouses as well. And sometimes also, especially in the African environment we're in, there's also this whole background, or should I say cultural background, that we come from, where a mom is the primary caregiver, of course, and that has to be able to handle everything all together. But you need to identify within your home first where you can get help. Give yourself some time, sit down with the people that you need help from, including your spouse, and ask for help whenever you need it. And for me also, it's with my own sister. And I'm not a person who has a big cycle of friends and so on, but I know with some people they have a huge cycle of friends, and if you are somebody who's like that and you're blessed like that, so that even makes it easier. But if you're somebody like me who's an introvert and doesn't want to bother people, it can be a challenge, and it's something that you have to get yourself used to, and just admit I need help and identify who is it that I can approach, who is it that I can ask for help from, and make sure that you become specific and clear. Okay. So we have this tendency, some of us, not all of us, some of us, people like me, the introverts, we have this tendency of asking for help without asking for help. So you're asking indirectly, and you're hoping that somebody will say, hey, I'm available, I think you need help, I'll help you. So you need to be able to be specific and be clear that you need help. It can be, hey, can you help me watch over this child today? I just want to run some errands or do this and that. Sometimes I have my child visit someone, and then they're able to go and have fun and play and have playtime, while I also get that time to get something done at the same time. So be specific and clear, and ask and accept help when you need it. Sometimes some of us feel like we are bothering other people to a point where even when people are willing to help, you just don't want to accept help. And that may come across as pushing people away, because people don't know if you are refusing because you don't think they can help you, or they will never be able to read your mind, that you probably are not able to accept help because you think that it will bother them. So teach yourself to accept help as well. It's not just you who has to always give the help. And then choose the right time to ask as well, because sometimes people may not be able to help us because of the fact that maybe the time isn't right. You have to acknowledge that and understand as well. As much as it can be disappointing at times, understand that, okay, the people have also their own time to do things, and choose the right time, be considerate. But you know what? Be honest about the fact that you need help. And professional help also is the most easiest, and it's my number one go-to most of the time. Whenever I need help, that one is my number one go-to. But I've had seasons where it wasn't possible for me to get professional help, like hire a nanny or bring in a house helper who can come in and help me with the entire house, including bathing my son and doing other things. So I've had seasons where it wasn't part of the things that I could add to my to the budget. So I had to really reflect on who then do I have within my family that can help me. So professional help is also important to get, guys. And for us who are Africans and grew up in an African home, you will notice that I know growing up, I was always told, and that thing went into my mind, I was always told that, if you go and you have a cleaner at home, or you have a full-time nanny or whatever, you were considered as being lazy or not being domesticated, being this woman who doesn't have, and I say manners, or who doesn't deserve being a wife to begin with, And we need to accept that life today has changed. Life, it's no longer the way it was, where back then women had to just be at home. And even when women used to be at home, I've had my own granny and, should I say, my granny's sister, they were both people that spent their times at home, were able to raise kids at home, but they still had things in their daily life that needed their time, things like business. My granny was into business and her sister was also somebody in business. So when you have things like that, it's not going to be easy all the time to handle everything. And so we have to embrace this thing. And so for me, normally, first thing that I had to do, I had to overcome that definition where I define myself based on being, domesticated, and that asking for professional help or getting professional help, then it will mean that I'm not a woman enough, I'm not wife enough, I'm not mom enough. No, it actually gives me time to be my healthy self and to give my healthy self to my family, and also to make that time to achieve all those goals that I have, to succeed in my career, and also to be able to pursue my studies. And so lastly, again, under this point of getting help, is be appreciative and grateful. Okay, we need to be thankful as well. There's this thing where a lot of trends are happening today and they're affecting our lives. And I can say people are becoming less and less grateful today because we have this feeling, we have this entitlement of saying that's just the bare minimum. And I understand where that comes from, to say, okay, no, people are expected to do certain things because that's just the bare minimum, especially with our spouses. Then we have to take responsibilities, both of us, But if we live in an environment where we're not grateful to each other and we're not appreciating each other, then it's going to deplete on that ability to get people who are willing to step in whenever you need them, and people who can offer help whenever you need the help. So I think I've been talking, and now I want to hear from you. I want to hear from your experiences. So if you have any tip that you want to add, please comment below and let me know which of these points have been a challenge to you as it has been to me, or which of these tips that I have shared have been your strongest point. Let us grow together. See you on the next one. Bye.